Returning to one of our top stories, US President-elect Donald Trump says America's enemies are on notice after appointing former infantry captain and Fox News host Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense. Joining me now for more on this is Professor Peter Dean, Director of Foreign Policy and Defense at the United States Study Center. So welcome to the show, Peter. What do you think of this pick?
Look, it's definitely an out-of-the-box pick. It wasn't one of the names that had been floating around in the newspapers and in the rumour mill in Washington, D.C. People have already started to raise questions about his fitness and qualifications for the role. So he was a junior Army officer in Iraq and Afghanistan. He ran a small veterans organisation. As you said, he's a Fox News presenter. So we've got to remember the Pentagon is one of the largest bureaucracies in the world, one of the most powerful militaries in the world. He doesn't have a lot of experience, it must be said, in managing large government organisations, bureaucracies. What it seems to fall down is more of a choice around his political views, his support for the president, and the book that he wrote about his time in the military, and his particular views on sort of what he brands as work culture within the Department of Defense in America.
Do you think there'll be issues when it comes to a Senate confirmation?
But look, that was one of the first questions that come across their mind. Is he confirmable in the Senate, given the questions that have been raised about his experience or lack thereof? Now, one of the ways around this would be recess appointments, and the president-elect has made it very clear that he expects whoever is going to be the Republican leader of the Senate to be able to provide him with recess appointments, which would circumnavigate that Senate confirmation process. So one of the leading candidates, Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, Trump's home state, has already indicated that he would do whatever it takes to make the president happy and to get his appointments through, including recess appointments. The other two candidates have indicated that they would happily look at such an approach. So if we got recess appointments, that would avoid that sort of confirmation process. But if he did go through a confirmation process, it's likely for the Republicans to have 53 seats. So they would need to shift 4 Republicans sort of against Hegseth's appointment for him not to be confirmed. So on both sides, he may well spread through, and it all depends on how Senate Republicans view this appointment, and particularly his record. But even if we get a recess appointment, it's a couple of months before he would take up the position. And because he doesn't have a public record like many other senior officials, I think it will largely fall to the media and to the Democrats and others to do kind of deep vetting on Pete Hegseth and his qualifications for the role. So it'll be an interesting ride for him over the next couple of months before he takes up the role.
Do you think his appointment is, the fact that he lacks senior national security experience is a plus? Because at the end of the day, it's, Trump rules.
Well, of course, loyalty to the president seems to be one of the key motivating factors. And during his Fox News show, he's continually pledged support and loyalty to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in the statement appointing him, praised his book that he's written. And if you read his book, what he does is he points out that he was removed from the army for his particular political views a couple of years ago. And he states very clearly in the book that he believes work culture has taken over the US Department of Defense. He makes reference to joining the military now is, in his view, no different to going to Harvard and doing a gender studies degree. And he talks about his lack of trust and faith in the United States military as an institution, the Army in particular. So he's got a very warrior culture particular point of view when it comes to military reform. What we don't know, besides the lack of experience in running a large organisation, is what is his views on China? What is his views on capability development within the Pentagon? What is his views on asymmetric capability development? What is his views on the future role of the US Navy or the US Army? Those types of big strategic questions are very unknown. And of course, being a junior infantry officer does not qualify you to work at the strategic level and the high bureaucratic level. So there are many more questions than there are answered about this appointment. But he does talk about a powerful military. He constantly talks about the need to reinvigorate the military. So with Marco Rubio's appointment at State and Waltz's appointment as National Security Advisor, you do have 3 people in Trump's orbit in key roles who are all believers in more spending on defence and a more bigger, more powerful military.
Thanks so much for your time and insights. Peter Dean, Director of Foreign Policy and Defence at the Sydney Uni's United States Study Centre.